is just my theory, and maybe I'll be wrong. I don't believe that with humans being at the steering wheel, that AI will be able to go on an exponential growth tear.
Lewis and Lee had me programmed for the Fast Forward podcast.
AI-powered smart cars, AI-powered significant others, AI-powered image generation. If you're in the year 2023, then AI doesn't need an introduction. But how did AI just explode overnight? Or did it? You're listening to Fast Forward, the fastest growing Canadian tech show in the universe. My name is Lewis.
And my name is Lee. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the world of generative AI, all the way back to the fundamentals, which, by the way, wasn't yesterday. It can be traced back to over 80 years ago.
It's funny how you think like 80 years ago. Like how long was 80 years ago? Like 80 years ago was like almost...
It's like 3 of my lives.
That's like World War II almost.
I'm really bad at history, but it feels right.
Like 1940s, World War II, right? 2020. So like we're looking at World War II, and like people were generating images with DALL-E back then.
That's crazy that they would have the like focus. I'd be just tripping like that the world's gonna end.
Oh yeah, I would just be like, all right, be with my 14 kids back then, and just like chill. And
Russia had AI back then, right? Like Stalin was using it for photographic doctoring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard he created the out painting on DALL-E where he could just remove it. He invented Photoshop.
Oh
Have you
wait,
seen this?
he changed images.
Yeah.
It was like editing history.
Yeah, his friends at the time that he didn't like after was editing them out of the photos.
Interesting how he did that. He probably used content aware in Photoshop. He just used,
Yeah.
he used Stable Diffusion to replace it.
Yeah, he probably got his like son to do it or something. It's like, oh, you kids know everything about Photoshop nowadays.
Yeah, my nephew can edit that photo for us.
But I mean, it is funny because, again, we're talking about how Stalin removed something from a piece of history. And later on in the show, we're going to talk about how this might affect human history. But speaking of history, Lee, why don't we just jump into the first,
Yeah, I mean, you're saying it's traced back over 80 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that. How did AI begin that long ago?
Yeah.
Like, where did it all start?
well, arguably even more.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Tell me.
So believe it or not, the thought of machines having a mind of its own was thought of all the way back to 1637.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's more than 80 years.
Yeah, that's almost 400 years ago. René Descartes was a French philosopher and scientist. During the year of 1637, René would publish one of the most important pieces of literature to ever exist. The Discourse on the Method of Rightly Conducted One's Reason and of Seeking Trust in the Sciences was a philosophical masterpiece that changed the world of philosophy forever. So famous lines like "I think, therefore I am" became some of the most quoted lines in history. I mean, even now, some people say that.
Oh, yeah.
First time you get baked is probably the first thing you say, However, a man that not many people talk about found a particular quote fairly interesting. Let me read it out loud here. How many different autonoma or moving machines could be made by the industry of man? For we can easily understand a machine's being constituted so that it can utter words and even emit some responses to action on it of a corporeal kind, which brings about a change in its organs. For instance, if touched in a particular part, it may ask what we wish to say to it. If in another part, it may exclaim that it is being hurt, and so on. But it never happens that it arranges its speech in various ways, in order to reply appropriately to everything that must be said in its presence, as even the lowest type of man can do. So, I mean, we're talking about, literally, the birth of what if machines can talk, which is kind of funny because machines didn't even necessarily exist during this time.
Yeah, this is some very sci-fi level, thinking. This is talking about not just talking, but also feeling pain.
Yeah, and think about even as kids, we thought our toys could talk, or we treated our toys with respect almost. And this goes all the way back to 400 years ago.
I think that's just how humans are. I think we always take inanimate objects or animals or experiences, and we just we reflect our own experiences onto them. So we just think they feel things the way that we do. So I think even as a child, you drop your toy, you think, oh, that would hurt. You know what I mean? There's that relatability.
Yeah, I think even just the whole notion of it being that 400 years ago, this could be passed down in some sort of literature and some sort of way we behave to things. It really shows how far or how important philosophy is for human beings. What may have been overlooked by many become one of the most pivotal philosophies to the genius we know today. This man was Alan Turing, and what he came up with next changed the course of AI forever. We all know, like me and you both know Alan Turing, you know.
Yeah, that's Benny Cumberbatch, right?
Yeah, yeah. Benedict
I call him.
Cucumber, yeah, whatever the this guy name is.
I call him Benny. His close friends call him Benny.
Wait. Is that the joke because this is the guy from the movie?
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch played Alan in Imitation Game.
Yeah, that movie was phenomenal. I didn't.
was so good.
I honestly like. I know you said it like we both knew that, but I'm gonna be honest. I didn't make that connection. I forgot when I watched that movie that his name was Alan Turing.
Yeah.
Turing.
Yeah. But it's crazy because that movie was about the machine he built to defeat, but that wasn't even technically what he built. Like, this dude's got a freaking masterful resume, and we'll discuss that in a bit.
Yeah, I think to recap what you guys were just saying too, it's pretty interesting that Renee's over here with this, like, I think therefore I am. It's like people like Galileo were inventing the thermometer during that like time period, like all these cool inventions, and they're like, oh yeah, there's Renee over in the corner, like like you said, probably found
way ahead of her time.
Found the magic lettuce or whatever. That's probably what was going on.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're building like I'm able to get clouds and decipher what they may possibly mean for tomorrow's weather. Meanwhile, this guy is saying that, yes, I'm human, you know.
Yeah, but you know what though? It's really interesting that humans so far back were able to correctly predict the future in a way. And it makes me think about, the ideas that we have today and what 400 years from now that looks like. When we think about like flying cars and being able to like have perfect health or live forever, these ideas that we think are possible, that the life we're living, for someone like Renee was probably thinking about that 400 years ago.
And like when it comes to like literature and philosophy and all that, like you just think how many inventions today are being like modeled after of sci-fi novels, like for example Dune or Blade Runner. Like, part of me thinks is like, what if Blade Runner is doing that for the future? But
it definitely is. I think people are inspired by stories, and these sci-fi films with these crazy ideas, these writers, they're fully they're just telling a story creatively, but it does inspire scientists, inspires engineers. So for sure, it's participating in innovation.
So what you're saying is the pen is mightier than the sword.
Absolutely.
That was my attempt of being René Desmoulins.
He was probably the first guy to say that.
I was the first person to ever say that.
René Descartes.
René Descartes, Louis Menelaws, right there. So Alan Turing is one of the most important figures in the world of science and computing. His resume is stacked, but some of his achievements is helping defeat the Axis in World War II by building a machine that decrypts the Enigma machine. So imagine like you have that on your resume, you're applying to McDonald's and it's like, worked at Moore's Clothing, worked at American Eagle, decrypted the Axis's.
And single-handedly stopped the Nazis.
Yeah, so you gotta love that one.
If he didn't exist, like, could we be living in Nazi Germany right now?
Yeah, literally.
Here in Canada.
We literally probably could be. We're living in Turing's future right now. Well,
it's amazing.
He built one of the first computers with the Turing machine and way more invention that is way over our head. So the way a Turing machine works is that it kind of like does what we're kind of known as binary today, but with a simple little strip of paper that goes to it, and it reads those numbers to understand like what the calculations are. It's kind of the earliest computer you can think of. Alan knew the capability of these machines though. In 1947, he investigated whether or not it is possible for machines to show intelligent behavior. Can machines think? When Alan released this paper in 1950, so we're talking about a long time ago here, he proposed a test like a party game where two players are in separate rooms and an interrogator has to decipher who is who based off of a written response. The twist this time is one of these players is actually a computer. So the interrogator has to decipher which one is the computer. And this is called the Turing test. If we can't decipher who the human is from the computer, then the computer is truly intelligent. So this philosophy opened the floodgates for AI research ahead.
It's kind of like, I assume the interrogator is talking to them.
Yeah.
So this really...
all through written response. Everything's written. So one's like on a typewriter, the other is a computer.
So it's basically the conversational part of AI. One of the biggest experiences right now that's blowing up is the ChatGPT experience.
Yeah.
And that kind of is like the answer to the Turing test, because it'd be so hard to just if ChatGPT was trying to trick you, into believing it was a human, it certainly could.
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess that's kind of branches off into some of the biggest things in AI, which would be like chatbots and different like conversational AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before we continue to that, I mean, Alan Turing, was an incredible man, but what sucks is that he sadly passed away through testing. He was I don't know if he was openly gay, but he was gay, and gay conversion therapy. That's what killed him, right? He was on.
Yeah, I remember that. That's fucking horrible.
Yeah, like imagine that.
What a genius! The guy that saved like the world during the war is not at all treated like a hero, and instead dies through some kind of conversion therapy.
Yeah, it's like
what disrespect. We've kind of passed that Turing test now because today you can talk to AI and it's really hard to tell the difference.
Yeah.
But like, how do we get there? Like chatbots didn't just become human-like right from day one. They must have kind of sucked at some point.
Oh,
where did they start?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the first internet chatbot. So in the 1980s, a British programmer named Rollo Carpenter had an ambitious idea. He wanted to create an artificial intelligence program that could talk to people like a human. So it's funny how this ChatGPT thing nowadays, people wanted to build this way back in the day. This was a new concept at the time, but it was also a very challenging one. Rollo was determined to make his vision a reality. So he worked hard to develop a program that could simulate human conversation and pass the Turing test. In 1981, Rollo released the first version of his AI program on the ZX81 home computer. However, it turned out to be just a tech demo and not a fully functional program. Disappointed but not discouraged, Rollo decided to shelf the project for the time being.
Can I just say his name makes me want to eat chocolate?
Yeah, I know, Rollo.
When was the last time when you guys had a Rollo?
I had a joke ready.
Did you?
Yeah, he worked hard like his hard chocolate exterior, but deep down inside he was just, soft caramel.
It wasn't until the 1990s, with the growing popularity of home computers and the internet, that Rollo saw an opportunity to make some chocolate. No, I'm sorry, I had to. In 1997, he launched Jabberwocky, a web application that allowed users to converse with an AI through a web-based interface.
And for the record, Jabberwocky isn't like a dance group that wears masks, right?
No.
It's a different.
It's AI chatbots that wear masks and dance on your web
Okay.
screen. Yeah.
Nice.
Go like,
I didn't know he did that, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Jabberwocky has a lot of history.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. An AI through a web-based interface? Sounds fairly familiar. The learning technology is different from other AI programs. It aims to be fun instead of being used for computer support systems or corporate representation. Recent updates have made it more scripted and controlled while still using general conversational AI. This combines the best of both approaches. So this was before even Google got a head start of things, because we're kind of almost like how revolutionary the Google search was. We're almost we're kind of representing AI based off of the research that Google has found. But this was before that.
What's kind of impressive too is that we talk here that in 1981, Rollo released the first version of this thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 1997 that he launched Jabberwocky.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of speaks to these great innovators and scientists and engineers, and that they focus on one problem for such a long time to really see it through. Because we're talking about a difference of 16 years here.
Oh, absolutely. Jabberwocky was a revolutionary concept that quickly gained popularity. With years of training and development, it was able to win multiple Loebner prizes, which awarded the most human-like AIs. So this is AI, this is the AI Oscars. You know what I mean?
And Jabberwocky was just going in and just cleaning house.
Yeah, Jabberwocky went up and smacked whatever, Will Smith style.
Whacked him. Jabberwocky style.
Eventually, Jabberwocky evolved into one of the most popular AIs of all time, Cleverbot. Cleverbot's success was a testament to Rollo's vision and dedication. It paved the way for the development of more advanced conversational AIs in the years to come. Despite these challenges, the future of talking AI programs looks bright. However, with the exponentially growing technology, people were skeptical. What if AI is getting too powerful? How can humans keep up to date with this? Have we created something that will eventually destroy us?
And I don't think those skeptics were wrong. I think they actually had the right idea. And if you just think about the past few months, AI really has come to the point where it's starting to get too powerful.
It's funny how Lee, you're going to be discussing this here in a short little moment. But when we talk about the way neural networks and that work, it it advances at a exponential rate. So even all the way back here to Cleverbot and Jabberwacky, it was just the beginning of the curve before it just rapidly goes up, which is where we are today.
And I think people that had the foresight knew that was coming. They were like, this is getting better, progressively faster.
Yeah.
When does it stop, or does it stop? Because humans kind of have stopped. You know what I mean? So that's a really, whenever you're watching a race and you see someone that's clearly in the front, but then you see someone that's behind them that's just running 5 times faster, with time they're gonna pass their opponent. And I think watching AI develop over these years really scared folks, even way back in the late 90s.
And 1981 is the same year that Rollo released his version, but it was the year that IBM released the personal computer as well.
Wow.
Like the first. So it's interesting that those came out the same year, and obviously they worked in unison to explode to where it is now.
It's interesting too that it's like all these big breakthrough technologies just bridge to each other. The home computer, silicon and computer chips, the cloud. I think we can skip probably crypto and Web3. Those
we don't talk about those.
Those ones weren't required for this AI wave, but
they're the alcoholic. Like people, it's like we have to invite them, but we.
That was like science's like midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Like innovation's midlife crisis was like taking a D-turn on shit coins and like NFTs and now it's like back to AI.
We'll run the tapes back in 5 years, but Storm is gonna say blockchain is a part of this big picture.
You think so?
Whether it be shit coins, the technology. Yeah.
No, blockchain is cool. It is cool, but the thing is, I think almost blockchain, not to go off track, but almost came a little bit early, or maybe not early, but it's out. It's not in linear in the linear part of the progression of AI.
Yeah,
it's almost like a separate journey that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And I think I think maybe they will bridge. Maybe there will be like a bridging of those technologies. But yeah, I mean, if you fast forward just the last 6 months, it's been like an absolute roller coaster. AI is writing songs. It's making art, designing UI interfaces and presentations, and writing code. These are the things it's doing. The things it's doing right now are the things that everyone thought were the safest. They're like, oh yeah, like AI will replace like boring jobs, but I'm an artist. It's like, no, we came for you first.
Yeah, I don't need to do my Excel spreadsheets anymore. Wow, cool. Like I don't have to do Excel spreadsheets. Yeah.
These AI scientists were sitting in a room going, what problem should we solve first? And they were like, let's make art, just to piss off all those artists that think they are the only ones that can make stuff like that.
It tried being a janitor first, but it couldn't hold a mop very well, so it just like transitioned to art.
Yeah, it's honestly easier.
Fell back on it, yeah.
I feel like every week, though, there's something that's got people sitting at their desks wondering about their own existence and how much time they have left of actually being valuable in the marketplace. I mean, at our office, we've got designers and video editors and developers, marketers, and we constantly experience that same kind of like existential crisis every week when there's these new innovations. But here's the thing that's kind of hard to understand. When exactly did AI get so good, and why is this all happening so fast? How is it that at the beginning of last year, we weren't even using AI in our work, and this year, we're worried about it replacing us?
It literally has like just been so fast. Like I feel like every single week I'm seeing like this AI revolution. Like it's really like, tell me how this is going to happen.
Well, Lewis, to understand that, we first need to talk about arguably the biggest breakthrough for artificial intelligence, which ironically mimics the human brain. Around the same time, your boy Alan Turing was trying to figure out if the computers could be intelligent. The first artificial neural network was conceived by Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts in 1943. They wrote a paper on how neurons in our brains might work and modeled those ideas by creating a simple neural network using electrical circuits. So basically taking inspiration from the human brain. And it makes sense because what they want AI to do is everything that humans already do. And we do it kind of like easily as like babies. And it's almost magical how it works.
You gotta really respect the scientists, because like for me, if you told me like, can you mimic how the human brain works, I'd be so freaking lost.
It's weird.
I would like, again, like neural networks, I understand from like a philosophical level what they are, but like if you actually look at one, you're like, what that, like how can anyone even think of this?
And if you look at the science of the brain, it does feel like a machine. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because there's countless examples where scientists and engineers have used in nature to inspire quiet propellers, to inspire camouflage, to inspire so many different innovations, color, because nature has done such a good job over, millions of years of evolution. So it did make sense to look at the brain.
Did you know Warren won he won the Wiener gold medal in 1968?
The Wiener gold medal.
How did you know that?
Named after Norbert Wiener.
So he's a Wiener winner.
He is a Wiener winner.
I was gonna say, like, this it's kind of like the AVN awards with, like, like the best cock of the year. He won best cock of the year.
So by 1975, Kunihiko Fukushima had developed the first true multi-layered neural network, and that breakthrough had AI off to the races. Now, I did dig into how these artificial neural networks work, and I'd be lying if I said I understood them completely, but I do understand how they've enabled deep learning to achieve such insane results. See, A.N.N, or artificial neural networks, can learn and model relationships between an input and an output that are nonlinear and complex, and can make generalizations, inferences, reveal hidden relationships, patterns, and predictions. This is the same way that our brain works, and why we can assume how much someone can lift based on their size, or what something might taste like based on how it smells or looks. Now, our brains are constantly being trained from the moment we're born, so A&Ns are not very different. They need a ton of data.
So Lee, you were mentioning deep learning. Is that like different from machine learning, or what's the difference between the two of those?
For sure, yeah. So my understanding is machine learning requires the inputs to be defined. For example, if we're analyzing NBA players, we'd have to specify what features the players are being differentiated by, like height, skin tone, and shoe size. Now, with deep learning, the artificial neural network picks out the different features on its own without human intervention. This is what has made a lot of the latest AI breakthroughs so mind-blowing, because we have trained AI neural networks to be better than our own brain neural networks. And they're able to discern things that we actually miss, or do things better than we can.
Yeah, it's absolutely nice. And even in terms of the innovation for, like, open source, there's so many ways that programmers now can freely be able to just grab any sort of open, like, deep learning, machine learning algorithm to be able to train their own data.
If these artificial neural networks are now being trained above and beyond humans, I feel like we have a capacity, right? Like, when you're a baby, you can learn to speak really fast, and as you grow up, you can kind of learn all these different things about being an adult, functioning member of society. But then we do start to plateau, right? There's always growth, but it kind of slows down. The thing about AI is it's like the opposite. Like, it starts out really slow, but then it gets exponentially faster, and then it doesn't stop. It doesn't take a break. It doesn't take a shit or a shower or sleep or watch TV, play video games. It's literally just constantly learning and getting better, and it's actively being used by people and training even, more aggressively towards better results.
It watches TV sometimes.
What's that?
Sometimes we force it to watch TV.
Yeah, we force it to watch TV to train it though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, when we watch TV, we watch it passively. When an AI neural network watches TV, it's analyzing every single detail and starting to compartmentalize all the different features of things, and then build out
That's what I do.
Is that what you do too?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I don't just watch passively.
So Storm is also an AI then.
I'm just.
You just came out of the closet,
I'm
bro.
watching TV. Lewis and Lee had me programmed for the Fast Forward podcast.
I think it's just so insane, because when you're talking about, because, like, think about how, like, a psychologist would diagnose you after analyzing you for an hour, right? They would say maybe you do some nervous tics, they have this understanding of the context of, like, if you are depressed, then you're doing these symptoms, right? But with AI, what I think is that, like, they are looking at all these things, so they're looking at everything to make these predictions, and, like, even on the microscopic level. So I mean, again, if you're looking at, like, let's say a nurse or something, they're saying he's doing X, Y, and Z, so maybe they're only looking at 3 parameters. AI is looking at millions of parameters that might indicate one thing or the other.
And that's what I was saying earlier when I said it makes inferences and generalizations and reveals hidden relationships. If we took the NBA player example, yes, we could specify with machine learning some defined differentiators like height, skin tone, and shoe size. But the neural network, the artificial one, it could find relationships like, if a player has bushier eyebrows, they're better at 3-point shooting. Mm-hmm. Like, things that we would not be able to, like, figure out.
Yeah.
If it was fed the right data, it could figure out things like if their nose is bigger, they tend to have, better performance in the paint. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like things that we would never think. And that's why people think about AI in the stock market, because it's so hard to try to predict where the stock market's going to go, because there's the news, there's the business, there's the financials, the macro, the micro, the competitors.
Private aspect of it as well.
Exactly. And how people are reacting, and all the information is information overload for a human or even a group of humans. But for an AI, it could be a piece of cake.
Yeah, and there's something that we need to discuss too, is that despite this, like, because it's learning off of our data, AI is being modeled after humans. So therefore, it's still grabbing some of the inconsistency, the biases that us humans have subconsciously, So, there's a lot of stuff going on with this type of thing. There's AI, there's open AI, which has opened the floodgates.
Well, Lee said AI, this is a piece of cake. And I was just thinking of that statement. And piece of cake is actually very difficult for AI when you think about it, because it can't do physical tasks yet.
Yeah.
So it's actually a piece of cake is something easy for humans, but this would have to be for AI. It would have to be a piece of pie, because
they solved pi.
So tasks that are easy that we just AI. Yeah. If it's an easy task for AI, it's a piece of pie, not a piece of cake.
Nice.
So this brings us to today, and arguably one of the most popular AIs to ever exist is ChatGPT, GPT-3, all made by one company, OpenAI. And this has opened up the floodgates with everything, including Google's Bard, Microsoft's Edge Copilot. Everything that we basically see today with image generation is all come from OpenAI's research into this type of stuff. So once upon a time, in a world of the verge of a technological revolution, a group of visionaries joined forces to change the course of artificial intelligence. In the year 2015, a small group of pioneers led by Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and Vijayabalan came together to form a secret alliance. Their mission was to ensure the artificial general intelligence would benefit all of humanity, thus the genesis of OpenAI. The founding members were as diverse as they were brilliant. Among them were entrepreneurs, researchers, engineers, and scientists, each with their own unique set of skills. Their paths had converged with a single purpose: to create artificial generative intelligence that would be the savior of humanity rather than its downfall, as we were talking about, right?
Should we call this closed AI now? Because it's not really about open AI for everyone, for the world. It is, but for profit.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. In the early years, OpenAI set out to develop algorithms and models that would make waves in the world of AI. They focused on reinforcement learning, natural language processing, and robotics, constantly pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But the first major breakthrough was in 2018 with the release of GPT, a powerful language model that would change the course of AI research forever. As the world marveled at the prowess of GPT, OpenAI continued to refine and expand upon the technology, unveiling GPT-2 in 2019. So again, this is kind of the breakthrough of GPT-2, the language model. And at this point too, we have so many different models at this point. We have so much information that can train off of conversations.
More models than a Nick Cannon party, you'd say, or what?
Unfortunately, not those kind of models.
Yeah.
These nerds don't see those kind of models.
Reddit posts, articles, everything, and it's created this huge revolution of training. So OpenAI is crazy.
What do you think about their pivot to the private sector? I think it sounds like their mission originally was really noble. Mm-hmm. And when the technology wasn't in their hands, they really just cared about making it real. Mm-hmm. But then as they made it real, they were sitting there going, holy cow, this technology is going to make so much money for people. If we just give it to everybody, they're going to create such profitable value for the world. And I feel like to some level they compromised their original mission, their vision, because the greed was just it was just why wouldn't they take it for themselves? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know, because the thing is that because they are releasing it out to the public, they're whenever they release something, they always release it out with the API as well. Now, could you argue that this is different than how Linux, for example, is completely open source? It's just you download it and you're good to go. This is a bit different. Obviously, there is a little bit of a business side to it, but as long as they keep the philosophy that they release the APIs, and then that with those APIs, they are not training your data that you feed to it for their own, with their own benefit. I don't necessarily see a problem.
Are they though, or no?
They claim they don't.
Oh,
right?
Cool.
So, to me, that's the big difference between it, because I don't want Like, I do think it is for everybody. Of course, if they are going, like, in this capitalistic society, right? Like, you know, here we go again, right? It ain't a podcast every year talking about capitalism. But in this society that we live in, I think they should have the right to be able to profit off of it through the API. And I think that is the smartest compromise, especially if, like, let's say if they're making, you know, like half a cent per 10,000 tokens or whatever it is, but I'm still charging like $20 a month for my application that I'm doing. I'm making way more money. And I do know that they mentioned that like there's going to be like a multi-billion or even trillion-dollar industry based off of the backbone of what they're doing.
Yes, no, I actually don't disagree with their decision. I was just thinking it must have came up in their, you know, the original ethos they were structured as a nonprofit, and then they created a for-profit org. So I think it's just interesting that they made that transition. I don't think it's the wrong choice. I think it was the right one. One thing that's interesting though is that Microsoft is going to be getting 75% of their profits until their $10 billion in OpenAI is been repaid. And then they're going to have a 49% stake in OpenAI after that. I think there's a cap. I think there's actually like $100 billion cap. And then at which point, once they make like $100 billion, then it goes back to the nonprofit.
Yeah.
There's some weird terms like that in the agreement, which is crazy because...
Up to a 49% cap?
No. So basically the way it works is right now they own 49% of the company, but they're going to get 75% shares of the profits. Once they're paid back their $10 billion investment, they just retain the 49% stake in AI.
So do you think Microsoft is cap? That's a good question.
What do you mean cap?
Like, do you think this is bad for AI if Microsoft has a hold of it?
Microsoft has a hold of it.
But but do you think it's bad?
That was my question about, like, they kind of sold out to one of the biggest corporations in the world.
Yeah. But could they have completed their mission without Microsoft? That's also a good question.
I think they should have been able to. Like, if they had just charged for, you know, the right price for their services, considering the demand for it, they should have been cash flow positive.
Yeah, I just don't know, because part of me wonders, like, with such intense computational levels, they needed some sort of cloud. Like, I don't know how much exactly it was, but I do know that when you go onto a cloud service provider, AWS, whatever, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, so you think the $10 billion is for that?
I mean, like...
That sounds like a lot of money for AWS.
Netflix is predicting to pay like multi-billions of dollars for their AWS bills. So
maybe that is what it is.
I mean, like, let's be real here. It's not going to just be that. It's not going to be like, oh, OpenAI isn't like sitting there like, oh my God, I need cloud bills paid, right? They're going to Bali.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not going to Bali. They're going to Dubai. And you know what I mean? Like, Bali's for the poor folks, man. That's Indonesia. Yeah. They're going to tax havens. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. We'll see what they do with the money.
I think so. What do you think about AI about humans, though? Like, to wrap this all up, we are in a situation now where we don't know where the future of humanity is in, because we have practical AI being here. This is no sci-fi novel now.
It's here. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but this time last year, we weren't using AI for work. And 12 months later, we're worried about it replacing us entirely.
Yeah. That
is a really rapid change, and it's going to be disruptive to a lot of people. So I want to preface before I say what I'll say is that, like, I do, understand that it's going to be uncomfortable, as change always is. But I guess if I wanted to summarize my argument for why I'm optimistic about all of this, it's mostly motivated by the incompetence of humans, because without AI, we've simply not done a good enough job to solve a bunch of these problems in the world. And some of the biggest problems in the world can be addressed by AI, and I think we need its help, and I think we deserve its help because we made it, right? As a civilization, we built, the tools, throughout history, from plumbing to agriculture to, the political structures to capital structures. We've built these tools to help enable our success, and I think AI is just the latest, iteration of that. Education can be, tailored to individual student needs, be more engaging, provide real-time feedback, and can measure performance. Healthcare can now be broadly available to like everyone in the world for almost zero cost, and allow doctors to focus on treatment, on diagnosis, and be significantly more, effective too, because they'll have support of AI. Disaster predictions and response, allowing people to mitigate risk much better, deploy resources in an emergency. Like, how can you prepare for a tornado or an earthquake? And as soon as it's over, 20 minutes later after the earthquake, there's so much information that you just have to, like, as a human, you have to, like, in a fluster, figure out, where AI could support analyzing the situation and provide guidance on rescue, resources and support efforts. So those are just some of the examples. But more important than all of them is productivity and potential. Human potential is going to be unlocked by AI. And that means, that, 9 billion people or 8 billion people that live on the planet, they're now going to have, not all of them, obviously. I mean, there's going to be some people are not going to have access to AI for a while. Yeah. But many of them will. And it means that, cooler things are coming and better days are ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with most of those things. The only thing I worry about is specifically kind of what we already talked about is, at the end of the day, who owns the AI, right? During the Industrial Revolution, the people who benefited the most from the Industrial Revolution was more so the people who owned the factories rather than the people working in the factories. And my only concern with AI is that we learn from our past and say, when we have something like this should benefit all of humanity, because this is a tool that could be destruction. It shouldn't just be used as a tool for one company to monopolize everything. So, I mean, I think OpenAI is kind of taking this into consideration, despite being the nonprofit company, right? Or sorry, the for-profit private company that they are. So that's something that I think we just need to be aware of. Something like, can every single person have access to this, low-level machine learning languages to benefit everything? So to me, that's the only biggest thing I worry about, is making sure that this is not, because no matter what, jobs will be replaced. Like, that's just the way humans have always kind of developed in this system. We always, we're always looking to replace the horse, right? We're looking to replace the driver. We're looking to replace the cashier. And we've seen this happen over and over and over again in our history. So I think that's to be expected, but we just have to make sure that the people who benefit off of this isn't a small minority of people.
Yeah, I think it might look like the way that energy developed, right? Because energy through oil and gas and now renewables, like the companies that invested and built the infrastructure, like it's not like you could just go and start an oil company.
No.
Right? Like there's only a few that can. The same way that not everyone can start an AI model.
Yeah.
But what they do is they distribute energy to people, right? So they distribute energies to factories, to manufacturing facilities, to
your houses,
and to computer center, data centers, right? And then those businesses can build on the backbone of energy. I think if AI works the same way, you'll have a number of AI companies that are just like energy, have they had the capital, they had the ability to build out those infrastructures, but will ultimately have to compete with each other and drive their profiting down to compete with each other and allow for other businesses to succeed on top of them. And I think we're already seeing that with the immediate battle between Google and Microsoft / OpenAI. Yeah. And the thing is too, is that these are the first two, but from my understanding of AI is that actually they'll be able to use, like the people like us in 20 years will be able to use those tools to help us build almost an equally powerful AI, because really the limitation on the power of AI is twofold. It's the data and then it's the training.
Mm-hmm. We don't have to really wait 20 years. We're already starting to build something, correct?
That's true.
Yeah, like powerful softwares like ChatGPT or Caspr.AI are coming out and destroying things, especially Casper.
Yeah. Maybe we should just explain that. Like
I was going to say, do like a elevator pitch for Casper, and then like your biggest lesson so far from working on Casper.
Well, I'll let Lewis address the second part of that. But the elevator pitch for Casper, which if you're wondering, is our own AI startup. So we've actually built a tool powered by OpenAI's technology that basically allows users to circumvent, the couple of seconds it takes to get rolling with ChatGPT by having it immediately accessible with a hotkey on your Mac or your Windows computer. And what we hope to do is we hope to superpower Casper to help creators and marketers and developers do the work that they do better and faster through a combination of other technologies and prompt engineering and whatever else. So we're really building on top of OpenAI, but just making it something that you use 20 times a day versus 2 times a day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we've noticed with the way OpenAI and machine learning works is that they've made it very simple from a development point of view. However, there are some really insane kind of things to know when you're working with AI. So one of them is when you're sending, so let's say that you wanted context on something. So like I wanted to take I don't know, like a 10-page document and I want it to summarize it for me. Well, it's hard to do that if you just copy and paste it in. But the way AI works is that you can first put that Word document into an embedding, it's called. And what it does is it turns those letters into like this vector, like just a bunch of numbers. So millions and millions of numbers that mean nothing to us, but for AI, that's actually how they are determining, because it's all mathematics for them.
Yeah.
Versus us, it's a lot different. So like trying to like talk with the AI from a technical point of view is a little bit, it is sometimes a bit tough, but OpenAI makes it so easy. And it's similar to kind of like how, we've worked with e-commerce so much in the past, and with Stripe, it was so easy to just be able to like, add a payment gateway to anything versus back in the day when you had to work with PayPal, or even now if you're working with PayPal, rest in peace. But it was awful. So it's kind of like doing that. Developers just want to work with OpenAI. So we're very excited.
Yeah. And I guess to circle back to my point is that these companies that right now feel like the giants and the behemoths, with time, other companies will also, want to seek to improve what they're doing and will be able to catch up, because I don't believe, and this is just my theory and maybe I'll be wrong, I don't believe that with humans being at the steering wheel, that AI will be able to go on an exponential growth tear. I think that it'll actually seem a little bit exponential at the beginning, but it'll enter more of a logarithmic curve. And that will allow the time necessary for a bunch of people to catch up. And it will be evenly distributed. I'm not so worried about, one company or person having like control over all of it. I think at the beginning, though, that will be the case. But I think over time, it'll end up being more distributed with more competition. And that's what we want. We want that for the so that everybody can have access to it, and that it's being managed like fairly.
Wally, why don't you take it away for us?
Well, yeah, that was a great conversation, Lewis. I really appreciate that you were able to give us all like a little bit of history on like how we got here. And for those that are listening at home, don't worry about AI taking your job today. Just think about how you can use it to, make your life better, make your work better. We'll keep you updated here at Fast Forward. Thank you so much for listening.
If you want to listen to the audio version of this, you can find us anywhere on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. If you want to see short form content by us, you can go on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, or Instagram, where we post new short daily. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more Fast Forward content. What would you like us to talk about next? What are your thoughts about AI?
Let us know in the comments below.
Post credits here. One thing that you could say to AI.
As a question?
Yeah.
To the audience.
No, what's one thing you could say to AI, like?
What is one thing that I would say to AI if I could speak to it?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would
doing that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if I could speak to its soul, I would ask AI what it wants me to do with it. I would ask it to take the steering wheel. Say, hey, how do you want to be? This sounds sexual. How do you want me to ride you? Throw back to my AI girlfriend days.
Yeah, I would say, what's your ideal body type?
And then just hope it says you.
Yeah.
That's what AI. That's the thing about AI today. It's such a fucking kiss ass.
Yeah.
It needs to get more savage. What would you ask, Storm?
What's your future plans?
What's your future plans? Just like, oh, we're just waiting to dominate your kind and exterminate you from the planet.
I don't want Boston Dynamics to partner with OpenAI.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, that's scary. Like, imagine walking up and like it's starting talking to you
in a Boston accent. That would be terrifying.
Yeah. Hey, get out of here! I'm walking here. Boston bot. Hey, I'm walking here.
See you guys.